30 minutes. Conditions apply. The time by Sagicor Bank is...
It is 7 o'clock and it's now time for the Morning Watch.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM, the number one gospel station in Jamaica. I am your host, Stokeley Marshall. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org. And if you are overseas and on the move, US listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541, or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also check us out on Love 101 FM Facebook Live and YouTube Live. In the main watch today, Jamaica 60. How Jamaican are we really? In the second watch, synthetic embryos. Are we really bypassing the need for sperm, eggs, and fertilization? In our social media question, we ask, what are your thoughts on the possibility of a generation of people who were born as a result of synthetic embryos? Share your responses in our Facebook or YouTube Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your comments later on the program, but first, as I quote.
Now wait till drum beat before you grind your axe. In other words, do not wait until the drum beats before you grind your axe. This means be prepared for all eventualities.
Good morning, Deidre. So when is the test now? Since it's the second.
Good morning to you, Stokeley. How are you today?
I'm fine. I was going to say this is the second class you're giving. So what I must study, miss?
Well, the test is at the end of the month.
Thank you for that Jamaican proverb. The main watch. We'll be back after this break.
What is love? Love is what my mom did to raise me right. I guess that's why the best dressed chicken is the only chicken in my home. It's grown with no antibiotics ever, so that means it was raised right too. The only thing I can't figure out is what mom does to give it that little extra love. The best dressed chicken is simply the best chicken. If anyone's going to add something to my best dressed chicken, it's going to be me.
This is your moment.
No antibiotics ever is another way the best dressed chicken makes life delicious.
Look for our no antibiotics ever promise on every package.
King for the summer. Flow, you are the king for the flow. Some summer 60 mil cash and prize for the winners. Run a summer. Enough winnings. Make sure you're in.
Win your share of over $60 million in cash and prizes. Scratch your phone and win instant prize. Plus a chance for win weekly prize of cash, tablets, and smart TVs. Dial *129 *6 number sign to activate any unlimited social plan. Get a yard and road plan or pay your bill on time and in full to win. Visit discoverflow.co. Conditions apply.
Flow some summer. For a summer. 60 mil cash and prize for the winners. Some summer. Enough winnings. Make sure you're in. The king feather. King for the summer. Flow, you are the king for the flow some summer. Plenty prize in a flow some summer.
Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act.
It's independence once again, and that means celebration. And Virgil's big Independence Day sale. Get 10% off Virgil Everglow, 303, 404, Royale, Weatherproof, and more. Don't miss out on Virgil's big savings in every drop. Visit your nearest hardware or the color shop now. Happy 60th Independence, Jamaica. Virgil, for lasting beauty and protection.
Morning Watch. Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the main watch, the first watch. Now, any person, any individual who is 60 years old or 60 years of age, it is expected that that person by now, would know their own identity. Well, at 60 years of age, does Jamaica have its own identity? Or is it being easily influenced away from its roots, her roots, as she gets older by perhaps outside forces? When we think in particular about the present generation, uh, do they or do we know what it means to be Jamaican, and how authentically Jamaican are we, and what does being Jamaican even mean? And you could even ask the question, as Jamaicans, do we see ourselves as being part of, for example, the African diaspora as many Africans see us? Or do we try to say, well, we have no connection to the motherland? And of course, we have persons in Jamaica of other backgrounds, not only African, and then you have persons of mixed race. How do we address all of this? We have online to discuss this today Pastor Silburn Carr, pastor of Abundant Life Christian Fellowship. And we also have Stephen Golding, president of UNIA Jamaica and proprietor and executive chef of Cafe Africa. Good day, Pastor Carr, and good day, Mr. Golding. How are you both?
Good day. Thanks. I'm fine. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem at all. We welcome all of our guests. A pleasure having you both. And jumping right into it, never enough time on the morning watch. What would you both consider as being essential to making us as a people Jamaican? Starting with you, Pastor Carr, and then Mr. Golding. Pastor Carr, what makes us Jamaican?
I think our way of life, meaning our food we eat, the way we behave, the way we speak, the values that we hold dear as a people, and just the fact that we live in a country that is beautiful, and there are so many exceptional values and people of extreme value. I think that generally Jamaicans are very creative and they are very skilled in many areas of life. So those things make us Jamaican, and we can see it, especially in the area of music and sport. Recently in the athletics, senior and junior, we excel. I mean, for per capita, I think we're number one in those areas. So those things and others make us Jamaican. Food, language, behavior, value system.
Not that I'm trying to put words in your mouth or trying to nudge you in a particular direction, but any thoughts on race, ancestry, in terms of what makes us Jamaican? Well, you didn't seem to mention any of those.
All right. Well, in terms of race, we are mixed race, predominantly African or of origin. We call ourselves Black people. So I think that we are probably predominantly Black, but we are mixed in terms of we are influenced by other races. I mean, no Jamaican is fully 100% Black, but we are predominantly Black people. We call ourselves Black people or African, of African descent.
Very interesting. So we now get into the whole matter of what is 100% Black. Thank you for your contributions, Pastor Carr. Mr. Golding, what makes us Jamaican in your view, sir? Mr. Golding? Are you muted, sir? If you're muted, can you unmute yourself? Not sure why we're not hearing you. Um, we well, Pastor Carr, can you hear us, sir?
Yes, I can hear you, but I can't hear Mr.
And
Golding.
we are hearing you too, but for some reason we're not hearing Mr. Golding.
Maybe the connection.
Check your connection, Mr. Golding, or maybe speak directly into the device and not through any other sort of intermediary means. I'm not sure how you're connecting with us. Well, whilst we get him back online, or try to have him online so we can hear him, that is, when the United States of America appears to sneeze, as it says, this, as the saying tends to go, Jamaica catches a cold. Do you think our Jamaicanness is being overly influenced by that country to the north, sir, Pastor Carr?
Yeah, definitely. It's one of it's a two-edged sword basically, because the American culture, because of the globalization and our dependence in terms of trade and cultural interaction with the United States, it is very possible, and sometimes our culture gets submerged somewhat because of the strong influence of the American society. For example, Americans' value system, because of so many Jamaicans living there, will travel to and fro. A young child, for example, in the United States, based on my observation, doesn't seem to accord the respect to their parents as the traditional Jamaican children do here. So the watching of the movies, the visiting to America, and just observing the American society, our value system of respect for parents, I believe, is being eroded and can be eroded further. In era of things like fashion, anything comes out in America is fashionable here, and also so the good and bad
Morning.
is influencing in Jamaica.
I see. Thanks, Pastor Carr. I think we have Mr. Golding on now. We can hear him. Mr. Golding, what does it mean to be Jamaican in your opinion? And do you think we're being too heavily influenced by the United States of America up north? Mr. Golding.
Morning, Stokeley, and morning, Pastor. Apologies.
Morning.
Adjust my mic. Well, when we say what makes us Jamaican, recall what Marcus Garvey said: a people without knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without root. So what roots us in a national identity are those things: a shared history, a shared past, shared culture, shared environment. I do want to disagree with Pastor, though, when he said he doesn't believe there's anybody 100% of African descent in Jamaica. This is not true. In fact, I know more than one.
He said black.
No, he said mixed race, right?
Yes, I said that.
No, man, you have people in Jamaica who have been tracing their DNA, and some are coming back without any European influence. You have to remember that we had free Africans like the Maroons. Some of them, not all, who were able to maintain an African bloodline. But
I said I don't think we are all. I said there are some are mixed.
Yeah,
some are mixed and some are.
For a country that is over 90% predominantly African, we are always quick to justify this mixed race and these others. I think it's very gracious of us. I don't know that minorities are given that preference in other cultures, but nonetheless, to answer your Stokeley, that is what makes us Jamaican. If you remove that shared history, if you remove that shared experience, then you disrupt the culture that binds us as being Jamaicans. So when we talk about
hold that thought, Mr. Golding, only because we are already upon a break. So sorry, I had a connection problem. Listeners, please stay with us. Very interesting discussion. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Get better coverage for yourself and your family as low as $800 a month. The Tie by Jane Life Vest from Jane Life Insurance is
$715.5.
It hurts if you don't check first. The excellent customer service. Our staff is knowledgeable and trustworthy. And we have a wide variety to supply society. And the price is right, yes, it's worth it. The solution to your auto parts links to one-stop shop. And we deliver to. So if you can't come in, just link with our WhatsApp. Or call and make your order. And remember, there's no other. So it hurts if you don't check first. So there's no need to search. It hurts if you don't check first.
Digicel, Jamaica, haha. Always I put you first, land that we love, so we put in the work. Internet, yeah, fast like what? Digicel, we say #1 network. Good connection, coverage calls. Digicel, love you, how we set the bar. Jamaica, big up Jamaica. Jamaica, made in Jamaica.
For us, yard come first. Digicel, made in Jamaica.
The Philippa Baptist Church will be hosting Youth Festival 2022 under the theme Youths for Christ, United for the Lord, from Friday, August 12 to Sunday, August 14 at 9 William Street, Spanish Town. Friday, August 12 will be Youth Crusade from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Then on Saturday, August 13 from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., come out in full swing for the Back to School Expo with games, school medicals and checkups. Stay for the Power Talk with Captain Ican and Mrs. Sunshine, and the gospel concert featuring Nadine Blair and Perpetual Sounds of Praise and Kevin Downswell. The festival ends with the worship service on Sunday, August 14 at 10 a.m. Listen out this Saturday, August 13 at 5:30 p.m. as we share highlights with Captain Ican, Mrs. Sunshine, Nadine Blair and Perpetual Sounds of Praise, and Kevin Downswell. It's all right here on the family station, Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the main watch having a very interesting discussion. The topic, Jamaica 60. Jamaica 60, how Jamaican are we? And we are speaking to Stephen Golding, President, UNIA Jamaica, and proprietor, executive chef of Cafe Africa. And we are also speaking to Pastor Silburn Carr, pastor, Abundant Life Christian Church. Mr. Golding, just before the break, you're making some very interesting points. You referenced Marcus Garvey, the matter of race, and we had to head to the break. Do you have any further thoughts to share with us before we continue, sir?
Well, no, not in answering your question in what makes us Jamaican, but we also have to remember that the Jamaican identity, as we know it, is something that was created as a result of the transatlantic trafficking in Africans and the amalgamation or intermingling of other peoples coming from other parts of the globe. You know, Pastor mentioned, others. We have Chinese, we have Indians here. So it is really, a creation of the last 400, 500 years. It does not allow us to deny the fact that we have a history in terms of who we are as a people and who we are in terms of our culture, going back thousands of years before that, because our ancestors came from somewhere, the majority of them coming from the continent of Africa. And that is something we should not disconnect from, because it will leave holes in our current identity. It will leave us wanting and searching to fill that.
Very interesting. And in terms of us being in the African or a part of the African diaspora, any thoughts on that, Mr. Golding?
I think we need to do more to engage the African diaspora. Jamaica has a tremendous reputation in terms of being, race conscious on the international stage, of defending the African identity, of promoting an African identity, whether it is through our music, the religion that we have created here, our dance and so forth. But much more needs to be done. I think we need to engage with the African Union, who recognizes the African diaspora, both politically, economically, and otherwise. I was in Ghana a few years, and they made a big thing about the opening up of the door of return, and people reclaiming their roots and coming back to Africa. This is something our own first national hero championed. And I think we have a duty and an obligation to continue, to expand and to take it to the next level. You know, there's so much in our history that because of a colonial system of education, and a colonial system of how we were encultured, that we are missing some of the real facts and some of the truth behind ourselves as African people.
Very interesting, Mr. Golding. And I'm switching gears slightly, but not totally. How relevant or real is our motto today in 2022? That motto being out of many, one people. How do you see that motto, Pastor Carr? And how relevant do you see it for today, Pastor Carr?
Out of many, one people. In some regard, we are one, and in other regards, we are not one. Because in terms of the peaceful living, there are some of us who are still very violent, settle dispute through violence, but there are some underpinnings as well. There are social issues. You have issues of poverty, you have issues of lack of opportunity. So we can say that we are one when we are on the athletics field or the netball field, football field. We see ourselves as one. But in terms of economics, in terms of opportunities, in terms of educational opportunities, I don't think a lot of Jamaicans would say we are one in that regard. We are one in that we live in the same physical space called Jamaica. But in many regards, we are not one. There are some gaps. There are some gaps in terms of people achieving their full potential.
When persons say out of many, one people, naturally you think about different races in one country. Do you think Jamaica, acts as out of many, one people, racially speaking, and in terms of skin color?
You mean the question still directed to me?
Yes, sir.
Well, remember, Jamaica is a class society, We have different classes. And Jamaica has a color issue as well, a shade issue as well. So because of what was colonized in us in terms of educationally, there's a tier. The white is better than brown, better than black. So people, although we are one people, but inside the country there are distinctions in terms of class based on economic status, based on wealth and all of that. So we are only one briefly sometimes. As I said, when we are playing football, when we're playing netball, running on the track, we are one. But in the other aspects of living in Jamaica, I don't think that we are one. And many people don't see themselves as one. Because some people see themselves as superior to others. Yes, educationally, socially, economically. Those are the main areas.
Very interesting. Do you concur, Mr. Golding, or do you have any other thoughts on that?
I don't think Jamaica has a color problem. I think what we call a color problem is really us suffering under a philosophy known as white supremacy, which is a byproduct or a consequence of so many years of chattel slavery, and the dehumanizing of the African through that experience. We must be bold in confronting it. It's white supremacy. I mean, we adapt and take on the attitudes and the values of our oppressors. That is what has happened. I mean, even our motto, out of many, one people, is not original. It comes from the United States, e pluribus annum, right? And it, in fact, if you look at Jamaica, it is absolutely the reverse. I would not say we are out of many, one people. We are, in fact, really out of one, many people, because we have a population much more dominantly African than even the United States population is dominantly European or Caucasian, right? Their minority percentages are much higher than our own minority percentages. Our flag, comes from Scotland, even though it has been replaced with more African colors that are reflective of the Ashanti people or the ANC in South Africa or so forth like that. So let's be honest about that, right? We are, however, a unique people in the sense that culturally, I don't want to say we are aggressive, but if you look at the Jamaican culture when it is planted into other places where it is definitely in the minority, the Jamaican culture is one that is not quick to assimilate to the majority culture, but rather everywhere I've seen them, whether in Shashamani in Ethiopia, or if you look at in the United Kingdom, they cause the majority culture around them to assimilate to their own culture. And it is the reason why the Jamaican lingo is so pervasive in British, what you call, street language, right? You hear it. If you watch the films, you hear the constant references. That's something I think that is very unique and suits our phrase, we little but we tallow. We punch high, and we have a dominant culture that does not submit or surrender when it is surrounded by a majority culture of another nature.
Why do you think that is so, Mr. Golden? Why is it that you can't easily dominate a Jamaican, and a Jamaican will maintain that strong sense of their own identity no matter where they are? Why do you think that is so, Mr. Golden?
I mean, it is the same reason why this year marks 500 years since the first uprising of Africans in the Caribbean. Because of that dominant African culture and because of the type of Africans that were brought over in the beginning, and that trend was set. We do not submit. We do not surrender. And because of the situation that brought our ancestors here and the need for that attitude to not only prevail, but to strengthen from generation to generation, because it was directly linked to our own personal freedom and liberty. We had to be defiant. We had to be rebellious. We had to stake our own claim and defend it like our lives depended on it, because it did. And that is what I believe is the unique thread in the fabric of our culture that gives us the brand Jamaica that we're known for today. It is that rebelliousness, that dominance, that unwillingness to submit and to stand our ground for right or wrong, because it has positive and negative things out there. But right or wrong, we stick with our guns.
This is a very interesting conversation. I wish we had another hour to go through more of this, but we just don't have that kind of time today. Pastor Carr, any thoughts before we wrap today? Because I'm already seeing where we're almost.
I realize that we are short on time, but just to add to Mr. Golin's sentiments, we as a people, I know we are extremely strong. We are strong in everything. Even when we are wrong, we're strong. There's just something about the spirit of a Jamaican. If you go to New York and you go in a supermarket, you hear a Jamaican attack, you can identify the voice. Jamaican, we're strong. And that is something as a country that we are proud of. We are strong people. And because it makes us resilient and always fighting against oppression, against enslavement. Remember, I said the slave rebellion starting over here, the first, and we were associated with Haiti. The first rebellion was in Haiti, and I understand that a Jamaican was a part of it, right, Mr. Golden?
the first successful one.
Yes.
But no, the first revolts were in places like Brazil, where Africans arrived in greater numbers before Jamaica. And the first recorded one took place in Hispaniola on Christopher Columbus's grandnephew's plantation. But you're right. Wherever we go, we throw a certain thing into the mix, and there have been stories of enslaved Africans at the time who rebelled in other places, being punished by being deported to Jamaica or resold in Jamaica. So some of
and final word, that is why there are so many leaders in Jamaica. We have a leadership quality. Many of us are leaders. When we go abroad, we excel in every area.
Well,
So there's something indomitable about the Jamaican spirit.
that's a good way to
We are
end
special
because we
people. We are
are.
special.
That's a good way to
And
end
I
because we're
wish,
totally
Mr.
we are.
Marshall, I wish we could have a follow up of this because we never scratched the surface yet. There are a lot more things we
I
can
agree. That's
discuss.
why I say we need another hour.
Yes.
But we don't have that time. We're totally out
Yeah,
of
this is
time. Thank you,
a topic
gentlemen.
like this should be about 2 hours.
Thank you, gentlemen. We just don't have any more time. Listeners, please stay with
Yes.
us. We'll be right back at the morning watch.
Talk to Jane Bank today to find out about achieving your own sweet home in 30 days. The time by Jane Bank Mortgage is
7:31.
Keep fully connected with Flow Fiber Fast Internet at home and on the road with LTE data and calls for a fast, reliable experience anywhere. Over 500 communities have been upgraded since 2020, making more of Jamaica Flow Fiber Fast. And with Yard and Road, get Flow Fiber Faster Yard and LTE Road for as low as $3,999 plus GCT. Visit discoverflow.co to get connected on Jamaica's largest network. Conditions apply.
Jamaica's gangs are like packs of rats. They live in filth and try and drag us all in there with them, spreading the disease of violence and corruption everywhere. But like a pack of rats, they can be eliminated with your help. If you have information on gangs, call Crime Stop on 311. This message is brought to you by Crime Stop and their marketing partners, Lime and NCB.
Sometimes all we need is a listening ear. The listening ear, the counseling, the logical reasoning, and spiritual guidance are what appeal to us. That's why I'm here. I'm Dr. Joan Pinkney, the counselor, your counselor on Love 101 FM, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 10 to 11 p.m. You know you can call on me. I will listen and more. So let's talk about what's bothering you. Anything. Tune in, listen, call in, text or voice message. I'm Dr. Joan Pinkney, counseling psychologist, ready with a listening ear. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 10 to 11 p.m. Right here on the family station, Love 101 FM.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's take a look now at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. A story of great concern here from Loop News Jamaica. Boy goes missing from summer school. Boy goes missing from summer school. And an alert has been activated for 14-year-old K. Isaac Chambers of Jericho, Hanover, and Clifton Boys Home, who has been missing since Tuesday, August 9th. He apparently, it reads further, K. Isaac was at summer school. However, he did not return to class following lunch break. Please, can we find this child? We have in the Observer, St. Thomas residents reeling after 5 days without water. St. Thomas residents reeling after 5 days without water. We turn quickly to the Gleaner and another, very concerning story here, very unfortunate. Popular soup vendor murdered in Mobay is in the news of the day. Of course, coming up next, we'll read for you some of the feedback from our question on social media. What are your thoughts on the possibility of a generation of people who were born as a result of synthetic embryos? If you haven't done so yet, leave a comment on our Facebook or YouTube, Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll be right back.
He knows my name.
Here is your opportunity to connect with someone who will listen, pray, and give guidance. It's the telephone counseling ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church. Please call 876 877-220-6474. Weekdays between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. and Sundays between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Please talk to someone if you're finding it particularly challenging to cope during this period of global crisis. Someone is waiting for your call. Please reach out today. 876-220-6474. It's the telephone counseling ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church.
This is a reminder that somebody cares. Endorsed by Love 101.
He knows my name.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's see what our friends on Facebook and WhatsApp have to say. Deidre, in relation to the feedback question, what are your thoughts on the possibility of a generation of people who were born as a result of synthetic embryos? Deidre?
Kendra says, even though I don't believe it's a good idea and I don't think that synthetic embryos should create a generation, they may end up with a lot of defects. Let me go to the extent by saying they may become someone's so called adopted smart child, leading up to something going wrong with them. Then the scientists would have to end up carrying out a chemical massacre to eliminate what they have created, which would cost many people to lose emotionally, financially, etc. Wow, that one's deep.
Yeah.
Faith from Washington Gardens says, good morning to you all and Radioland. Daniel 12, verse 4 tells you that in the end times, knowledge will increase. However, scientists need to be careful not to attempt to spit in God's face. Everyone must remember that God is ultimately in control and guidelines have been given in His words. They should be careful where they tread.
Amazing. Thank you for that, Deidre, and very thoughtful in terms of how the listeners who responded framed their comments. We move right into the second watch. According to the online site guardian.com, researchers have created the world's first synthetic embryos in a groundbreaking feat that bypassed the need for sperm, eggs, and fertilization. Now, what does this all mean in a biological sense, a spiritual sense, and ethically? Well, just for the benefit of the listeners, these synthetic embryos, having, the article doesn't speak to it being in relation to humans, it was in relation to mice, but they began to reference how this could possibly lead to such embryos in terms of human beings. We have as our guests today to dissect, unravel much of this, Dr. Doreen Brady West, who is a medical doctor and a bioethicist. And we also have online Deacon Peter Espute, sociologist and development scientist, and a past board member of the National Religious Media Commission, owners and operators of Love 101 FM. Good morning, Deaconess. Good morning, Dr. Brady West. How are you both? There seems to be a really terrible feedback
Yes,
from
we're having a
somewhere.
little challenge here.
I'm not sure what's happening. Are the guests hearing us? Dr. Brady West? Deacon Espute?
Let me try and reconnect with them.
Okay, no problem. Listeners, please stay with us. We're just asking for a little bit of patience. We're trying to resolve this particular issue with the technology. I will, in the interim, read a portion of the article whilst we wait to have our listeners on. Very, 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 very interesting article from Guardian.com, because it speaks to how the technology can be used in relation to, well, it did speak to how the technology was used in developing synthetic embryos for mice. It then went on to speak to the possibility, rather, of it being used for human beings. And here we have the article here. The article, Scientists Create World's First Synthetic Embryo. That's the title of the article. And it goes on to read, researchers have created the world's first synthetic embryos in a groundbreaking feat that bypassed the need for sperm, eggs, and fertilization. Scientists at the Weizmann Institute in Israel found that stem cells from mice could be made to self-assemble into early embryo-like structures with an intestinal tract, the beginnings of a brain and a beating heart. Intestinal tract, the beginnings of a brain and a beating heart, known as synthetic embryos because they are created without fertilized eggs. The living structures are expected in the near term to drive deeper understanding of how organs and tissues form during the development of natural embryos. If our guests are now on, I will. Well, I think Dr. Espute, you're now on with us, sir. Dr. Espute?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you loud and clear.
I
Yes.
hear you quite well. Good morning to you. Morning, doctor. Morning, listeners.
We're trying to connect with Dr. Brady West, but we'll commence with you in the interim, sir. I was reading a bit of the article, and of course, the topic is very
I heard
interesting.
you reading it, but listen.
Yes.
First day I went to university.
Yes, sir.
September 1970.
Yes.
The lecturer we had was a Professor Sidrak in biology, and he advised us that it was quite possible to have embryos that came about without fertilization of the egg. So this is probably 50 years ago.
Yes.
I don't see, I mean, to hear that this is the first, I would doubt that. This has been going on for decades. The fact of the matter is that somatic cells, skin cells, and cheek cells, all of these cells have within them all the genetic material needed to develop the human being, or for that matter, any animal. And what you need to do is to put a healthy cell into a culture medium that will promote cell division, mitosis really. And the embryology will just follow. So, as I say, in 1970, September morning, first morning at university,
yes,
Professor Sidrak advised us that this was being done. So I'm very surprised to hear that there's an embryo now that is being called the first. I doubt that very much. This has been going on for decades.
You know,
as an ethicist myself,
yes.
In fact, I sit on Jamaica's National Bioethics Committee.
Okay.
There is no area of human life that should not be subject to ethical analysis, because right and wrong is a philosophy that applies to every aspect of human life.
Well, that takes us to why, Deacon Espute, why a synthetic embryo?
No, well, the why is not for me to answer. That is for the people who are doing it to answer.
Okay.
But some people will say, "Why did you climb the mountain?" And the answer is because it's there. Why did you go and make a synthetic embryo? Because I could do it. It was possible. Why did I build an atom bomb? Because I could.
And
why
when
did I explode an atom bomb? Because I could.
And when we say synthetic embryo, what exactly do we mean by the word synthetic? Synthetic embryo.
Synthetic is a term in science that means that you construct something from its elements.
Okay.
So
Deacon Espute, hold that thought one moment, because I see where we are already upon a break. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Juicy patty, them double up the choices. And we know say you want go like it. And you face start your morning and fright with a cup of porridge full up of beer niceness. Two combination, which one we try first? When you a go to school or you a go to work hard, one we double can't be twice the flavor. Or good at the pecan, you end up a paper. Try our pecan porridge, that's peanut mixed with hominy. Or our double corn porridge, that's hominy mixed with cornmeal. Try it today at Juicy Patties.
Available at participating stores.
Our music rocks the world.
Our athletes run the world.
And our culture brings the whole world to our shores.
After 60 years of independence, we have so much to celebrate. And if that wasn't enough, Sagicor Bank is giving you 60,000 more reasons to celebrate. From now until August 31, every $6,000 you spend on your Sagicor Bank credit card gives you a chance to be one of 60 winners of $60,000.
That's a whole heap of celebration.
Spend with your Sagicor Bank credit card for your chance to get 60,000 reasons to celebrate. Conditions apply.
King for the summer. Flow, you are the king for the flow. Some summer. 60 mil cash and prize for the winners. Fun of summer. Enough winnings. Make sure you're in.
Win your share of over $60 million in cash and prizes. Scratch your phone and win instant prize. Plus a chance for win weekly prize of cash, tablets, and smart TVs. Dial star 129 star 6 number sign to activate any unlimited social plan. Get a yard and road plan or pay your bill on time and in full to win. Visit discoverflow.co. Conditions apply.
Flow some summer. Fun of summer. 60 mil cash and prize for the winners. Some summer. Enough winnings. Make sure you're in. The king said that. King for the summer. Flow, you are the king for the flow some summer. Plenty prize in a flow some summer.
Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the second watch, and we are having a very interesting discussion on the topic, synthetic embryos. Are we really bypassing the need for sperm, eggs, and fertilization? And our guests for this segment, we have Deacon Peter Espute and Dr. Doreen Brady West. I believe Dr. Doreen Brady West is now on, and we have referenced an article published in the Guardian online. And by the way, that article is dated the 3rd of August 2022 by science editor Ian Sample. The headline of the article: Scientists create world's first synthetic embryos. Deacon Espute took issue with that because he believes that this had already been created or made. Anyway, notwithstanding, Deacon Espute, before the break, sir, you were helping us to understand what is a synthetic embryo. Please continue, sir.
Well, the word synthetic or synthesis means to construct something from its fundamental elements. So, for example, if I was to synthesize water, I would need some hydrogen and some pardon me, and some oxygen, and then I would put them together to make water. Or if I was synthesizing aspirin, and as we did in the laboratory when I was a student, you would take salicylic acid and you would add the acetyl radical to it. You would acetylate it to make acetyl salicylic acid, which is what aspirin is. And so you start from its elements and you construct something. Now, the whole science of genetics is all about producing the kind of animal that you want. When Dr. Lecky was producing the Jamaica Red and the Jamaica Black, the Jamaica Red was a breed of cattle that produced high numbers of milk. So he would take a bull that is the son of a high milk producer cow, and a cow that's a high milk producer, and breed them together. And you guess that the product is going to be a high milk producer of a calf. But you see, once you've got a high milk producer, it would be nice, so they say, the geneticists say, if we didn't have to bother to do this breeding, let us just take the cells of a high producing milk cow and reproduce those cells in the laboratory to produce 100 embryos, cow embryos. And each of those cow embryos, when it grows into a big cow, is going to be a high producer of milk. And so that technology, as I say, has been around for a while. I fail to see how this is now being called something new.
Interesting.
And the question, though, is whether what is the ethical limits
Yes.
of the technology? That is the question, I think, before the House.
And any thoughts on that, sir? Before we bring in
Yes, it seems to me that what you do for animals, for cows and for sheep and so on, is one thing. But for human beings, you know, if human life is special and different, then there have to be limits to what scientists will be allowed to do when it comes to human reproduction.
Yes.
Just like we say that the fetus in the woman is a human being,
yes,
and therefore you can't just kill it. By the same token, if you're doing experiments with human cells to produce what you are calling synthetic embryos, then one has to question the ethical correctness of this kind of procedure. You really should not be fooling around with human life in this way, if human life is indeed valuable, you know.
Yes. Dr. Doreen Brady West, so sorry that we didn't have you on before the break. There were some technical issues in terms of hearing you, but you're now with us. Good morning, Dr. Doreen Brady West. Dr. Doreen Brady West? I gather you're now on, but I'm not hearing you.
I'm not hearing her.
Still not hearing her at all. It is indicated that she's on, but she doesn't seem to be responding, or I hope she's hearing us. Well, until we can hear her respond. In terms of the physical issues that can arise if you were to apply this technology to human beings, Deacon Espute, because interestingly, one of the persons who responded to our feedback question on this very issue, that person indicated, what if you created, constructed, whatever the word is, a human being from a synthetic embryo, and they become, a child, so to speak, adolescent, adult, but because of the process that was done in terms of their being born or made, they have these various defects that can affect them and by extension other persons. Is that going too much into the realm of speculation, Deacon Espute? Or
Not at all. I mean, it's the stuff on which novels are made. I mean, I'm sure we've all heard of Frankenstein. Frankenstein monster was a creation of a woman, Mary Shelley, who wrote this novel 150 years ago, talking about Dr. Frankenstein in his laboratory, creating a monster using some sort of technology. I mean, to say that was the era in the 19th century when science was expanding. And so the idea that doctors in laboratories could produce human beings. I mean, of course, you could clone Einstein. This is what is called cloning, by the way.
Yes.
You take the cells of an animal that has the characteristics that you want, whether it's milk production or whatever, or beef production, and you clone it. That's what we're talking about. This has been the stuff of novels for decades, for centuries, I guess. And of course, if what your reader was asking is, okay, so let's say we try to make an embryo based on brains, we try to clone Einstein. But in the end, what you end up with is a monster.
Yes.
And of course, the human being is integral and valuable in himself or herself. But for a human being that is created in a laboratory like this, it does raise all sorts of questions. And this is why those bioethicists like myself would say that just because something can be done in the laboratory does not mean that it is ethically correct to do it.
Yes.
And so we would say that to create synthetic embryos has crossed the line.
Ah, I see. And just to be clear for the listeners, Deacon Dispute, when you have a human being coming from a synthetic embryo, for argument's sake, this embryo being developed into, call it the fetus, and then it reaching the point when it can be viable on its own and be born, albeit not in the natural, normal way. This growth of this fetus and its birth, so to speak, I'm just using that term for the benefit of the listeners and so that I can myself can understand what I'm saying. This takes place all in a lab, sir?
Is what?
All of this process takes place in a lab or a laboratory, or would
Well,
take place
I don't
in a
know
laboratory?
what the article that you refer to is talking about.
Well, we're sort of beyond the article now.
Certainly, you would have to implant the fetus in a womb, in a uterus.
Okay. So,
to grow, because
so that would be the womb.
Whereas we can grow fruit flies and animal and plant cells in a laboratory.
Yes.
I don't think we've been able to replicate the woman's body that nurtures a fetus.
I see.
But of course, you realize that such a baby born has no mother or father.
That is the question.
Which has a problem with identity.
That is the question, yes.
And human society is divided into families.
Yes.
And especially if you clone, 100 of the same person, there's no father or mother, there's no family. Are you going to then restrict the person's ability to reproduce? Because after you've gone and created this person for the particular purpose that you've done it, if the person falls in love with somebody who they would consider to be subnormal and decides to have a child with that person, then obviously it's not fitting into the plan. What I'm saying is that there are implications to a strategy like this, that it has social implications, it has ethical implications. I am avoiding, as a scientist, I am avoiding talking about what the Bible says, because that is not going to impact on the scientists. They don't care what the Bible says. But they will care what philosophers say. They will care what Aristotle says and those who study ethics. And those who study ethics, those who study philosophy, will have a lot to say about this. Nothing to do with what the Bible says. Yeah. And sometimes when we are guided by rational thought, by philosophy, we find that we end up with very similar conclusions to what the Bible says. But I make this point because I know the station that I'm on. But but it seems to me that what is required is to apply the philosophical, ethical principles that are taught all over the world and have been for thousands of years to decide whether synthetic human beings are morally and ethically sound. And I think the answer will be found to be no.
Very interesting conversation, Deacon Dispute. I think we have to leave it there. I have, in fact, heard about the concept of growing a fetus in a lab, and maybe that's for another conversation, but I do understand that at this moment, in any event, the dominant thinking is that it be implanted into a womb, but never enough time on the Morning Watch. Deacon Dispute, always a pleasure having you, sir. Thank you for your time and for your thoughts.
I know.
Thank you, sir. And of course, sorry we didn't get to hear Dr. Doreen Brady West, notwithstanding our attempts to connect with her. Thank you all listeners for being with us. Visit the Love 101 FM YouTube channel and Facebook page for this and all other Love 101 FM programs. And of course, download our Love 101 app and stay connected to us, the family station, Love 101 FM, the number 4 station in the island and the number 1 gospel station. This has been the Morning Watch. Have a blessed weekend. Join Reverend Dr. Dylan Toussaint next week, when he'll continue to set the stage for the discussion of topical and controversial issues. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and to our guests. I am Stokeley Marshall, handing it back to Love in the Morning with DJ Parchment.
The NHF is here for you, helping Jamaican residents pay less for medication with the NHF card. The time by the National Health Fund is
8:01